Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to day 2 of the Dragon Spirituality Summit. In case you didn't know where you were. Right. Thank you so much for getting up so early, and it feels early, in drag hours. So thank you all for showing up this morning. I'm really excited for our first spiritual practice session this year. Last year we didn't necessarily take these moments to share in spiritual practice specifically, and so we kind of added this year. So I was really excited to check it out, and Scott was obviously a really great person for this.
And I got a bit early.
Yes, right. Yes, and for folks who are here who may or may not know, after this we'll have about a 15-minute break, and then we'll have 2 workshops happening. One is how to choreograph with the soul, which is movement, more dance, which will be in another room. And then we'll also have a workshop on unleashing your creativity for the gods. And David will be doing that in here. David will be doing that right here. And then after that, we will have a panel discussion. We'll have a little break, a little break too, but called Try This in a Small Town, we have 3 drag artists who are from rural America, who are going to be sharing their experience with drag and spirituality. So Callie G from Pocatello is here right now. And then we'll have Kylie Monono, and then Linda Summers will be here later for that. We'll take a little lunch break, and then after lunch we'll have a plenary with Marvin K. White has video, which is he is the Reverend at Glide Memorial Church is our sponsor today, so thank you, Glide. And Edward is here with the Glide Pride team, so thank you so much. They're the ones who really made today happen as far as being able to take care of what we need to. So thank you so much for doing that. And then after that, Mama Ganoush will be giving a keynote, which I'm really, really excited about. T is for transformation, religion, remission, and relapse. I might have mixed up that order, but there were 3 R's, and I'm pretty sure it was those 3. And then after that, we have the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence will be here sharing their experience, and then we'll take a little break, and we'll have another spiritual drag show at Bethany United Methodist later tonight at 7 o'clock. So we'll have, last night was supposed to be our big show. A few folks needed to switch their night. So tonight's actually the big show. So either way, it's going to be a fantastic time. So you can go to dragonspirituality.com or go to our Instagram at dragonspirituality to connect more. And I'm going to shut up and let Scott do some spiritual stuff with us. All right. This is Scott.
Thanks, Bonnie. And thanks to Bonnie for all the organization and getting this all going. We could not do this without you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Like I said when I rudely interrupted Bonnie, it's nice that I tend to go to bed early. I was going to say, I think I'm the first performer or the first presenter who's not wearing makeup at this drag conference. But then I remembered that King Jules taught us yesterday that everything we do is performance. And so I'm going to lean into that. And I'm also going to put on some physical makeup. And we can get started. All right, who's ready? We're gonna do what's called a song soak today. If you did not get handed lyrics, then you can pick up a sheet of paper at the very back of the chairs. And if you're joining us online, the lyrics will be shown on screen. You don't actually need to read them now, so don't look at it. But they're there for, in a little bit, we're gonna use the song as a meditation focus point. What I want to do to start it out is just tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about this practice, and then we'll dive right in. My name is Scott Sessions, and I was raised in Utah as an Orthodox mainstream Mormon. I'm also queer as fuck, And those two facts of my life, which were set from day one, have evolved to define my life so far. And a major piece of my adult path has been integrating and working with those together. The reason I bring up my Mormonism history is because with most Abrahamic religions, we were centered around a book, around text, right? There's the Quran, the Torah, the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and in Mormonism, there's also the living scripture or the words of the prophets, which are spoken every 6 months at a conference and then printed in a magazine and then preached on for 6 months until the next one. And so engaging with text and looking at text closely and like a wide variety of text was always part of my life. I will say, even though I mentioned there's a wide variety of scriptural text in Mormonism, it's a closed canon. Even as it evolves, it's basically, we were taught, these texts are sacred and like they do get added to every 6 months or so, but all the rest of the stuff that's out there in the world, that's not it. That's not where you're going to find God. That's not where you're going to find the wisdom that you need. In fact, in a recent conference talk, one of the leaders of the church gave the specific advice to not take advice from non-believers. He wasn't only saying, like, don't read non-Mormon texts. He was just like, don't even take advice from people who don't believe in the Mormon world, in the Mormon theology. And that's why I'm doing this. After I left the church and went a few years believing that there was no such thing as spirit, that there was no such thing as divinity or God, because I thought, well, the church was wrong, so probably they were wrong entirely. Something sparked in me a few years after I left, and I started to realize maybe there is still spirit in the world. Maybe there is still an access and a connection to divinity. And I've come to learn over the years that it's kind of the opposite of what I thought, that not only is spirit not confined to a particular church or a particular canon set of scriptures, and it's not that there's no spirit and there's no divinity, but it's kind of perhaps spirituality and divinity is everywhere. And perhaps it can be found in anything. And so it's become a vocation of mine as I've gone on that journey to make that known. That as queer people and as people who are not well cared for by religion generally and not well represented, we have the access, and not only the access, but the right to the spiritual tools that will feed our souls, feed our wisdom, and improve our lives. We have the right to those tools, regardless if they were developed within spiritual traditions which now reject us. It's our human birthright. And second, there is a treasure trove of sacred text available to us. Some of them are labeled as such, and some of them are not. And I know that in a room full of drag artists, I think we understand that point pretty well. That sometimes the top 40 hit is the one that speaks to your soul. And so we're about to dive into our song soak practice. Before we do that, I want to invite you to think in your own self for a moment about what was one of the first songs, or maybe the song that took you into drag, that you were like, oh, that's the one I gotta perform. That's the one I've gotta embody. What song brought you into drag, or when you started to do drag and you were like, what song do I start with, spoke to you? And if anybody wants to speak their song out loud, I'd love to hear it. What songs brought you to drag?
It was the top 40 things, suit and tie.
Suit and tie? Justin Timberlake? Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Diva by Beyonce.
Diva by Beyonce. Beautiful. Any other sacred songs that would like to be shared?
I shared last night on being 5 and 78 and seeing Sylvester do my drill, the video for it, and then actually being there in the Cathedral and seeing his plaque on the street. It's like,
yes, holy ground.
yes,
Literally. Thank you, Mighty Real by Sylvester. That's a real sacred one in San Francisco as well. Yeah. Thank you. So we get it. We understand that spirit and divinity can speak to us through literally any human creation, not to mention non-human creations. I'm going to invite us to the song Soak, which is based upon an ancient tradition called Lectio Divina or Lectio Divina, which means divine reading, basically. In early Western Christianity, when they were still gathering around the book and around the stories, they started to understand that the word was perhaps incarnate, that God perhaps spoke through the word. And if that was true, then there ought to be rituals around reading and around, pulling out the sacredness and the wisdom from those words. And the practice of Lectio Divina was initiated, and it's been evolving since then. I think I read even as early as 300 AD is when it was first identified. And like I said, sacred text is all around us. We know that it's in song as well. So I'm going to invite us to apply Lectio Divina to a song. I'll say one thing about music. Is music really sacred? Is pop music really sacred? I would say that some of pop music's sacred strengths is trance, for one. Repetitive, beats and words can bring us into a heightened awareness or a heightened sense of, being in the moment. By repeating the words, the voice becomes an instrument in a way. It also, like the content of a song, allows for great expansive emotion. They're almost like, they're operatic in ways where we can express a deep emotion through song that we might be embarrassed to say in words. And it might not even be totally true. If you sing a song about love and like, I would die without you, that's not usually like literally true, but it feels that way. It's the emotional truth. And it's through those heightened truths and those extreme expressions that we can sometimes access the extreme forces which are analogous to the divine or to deities. And I'll leave it there. So let's go ahead. You can use the lyrics if you like. What we're going to do is listen to this song by Marina 3 times with a meditation after each time. And I'm going to invite you to meditate on a question about the song each time. So you can use the lyrics if you like. I just put them there because sometimes songs are hard to understand, but you're more than welcome just to close your eyes and listen to it. Obviously, music is more than just the words on the page. The question that I'm going to be asking you to think on as you listen and then as we meditate for a few minutes afterward, and I will repeat the question after the song, but the question is, what phrase or moment speaks to you? Simple as that. What phrase of the lyrics or what moment of the music hits you and speaks to you? So let's go ahead and if we could play the song, yeah. And I'm gonna grab my phone while you do that, so I need a timer. So allow yourself to be open to what you're about to hear. Listen with your spiritual ears if you can, also with your human ears, because it's a pop song and it's fun.
Our ancestors had to fight to survive, just so we could have a chance of a life. We're not here so we can blow it all. We could bear witness to the rise and the fall. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast as I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. your purpose? Why were you put on earth? You could be lost, but you belong to the world. We're now living in a seminal age. The walls are being broken and we're ready for change. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm a witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. From the heart of Malaysia to the dark Himalayas, from the day we're born, you are not here to conform. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts or feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm a witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky.
All right. I'm gonna set a timer for 3 minutes. We're gonna meditate on that question. Again, what phrase of the lyrics or what moment of the song speaks to you? So I'll start the timer. I'll invite you to get settled in your chairs or wherever you are. You can soften your eyes or close them, or if you want, you can read your lyrics again, just see what speaks to you. I'll invite you to take a few slower, deeper breaths through your nose to sort of settle your nervous system. And then again, I'll leave you into some silence for a couple minutes while you consider the question, what phrase speaks to you from that song? All right. Welcome back to the room. I'm curious to hear if some of you would like to share which phrase. You don't have to explain why, just repeat the phrase of the song that spoke to you. Would anyone like to speak up? Sarah?
Ancient dreams in a modern
Ancient dreams in a modern land. Anyone else? The eye of the storm. If you're online, feel free to type it into the chat. We're going to listen a second time. And I want to remind you, sometimes it might feel a bit odd to be like, well, why did I listen to that fun pop song and then all of a sudden I'm sitting in silence? This is the ritual. This is the ancient ritual of Lectio Divina applied to music called song soak. We want to remember that just because we might have heard a pop song on the radio surrounded by commercials and maybe there was a hot new music video that came out and it was on YouTube and on a screen, none of those things discount its sacredness. The medium does not discount the sacredness, especially as drag performers, we understand that sometimes the sacredness is found in the gutter, right? It's found amongst the commercialism, despite all the attempts of commercials to discount the sacredness. Yeah, we do know that, of course, the song came from Marina and her producers and her record label, but who's to say that Marina is not as inspired as Moses or Muhammad or Joseph Smith? Nobody wants to say that? Okay, cool, then maybe she is. Those were just men that had a connection to divinity, so they say. Why could Marina not be a woman who has connection to divinity? So the second time we listen, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, where do you perceive the divinity within this song? If it works better with your brain, where do you perceive God in this song? Or where do you perceive deep wisdom in this song? Can we play it a second time? With that question in mind, where do you perceive the divinity in this song?
Our ancestors had to fight to survive, just so we could have a chance of a life. We're not here so we can blow it all. We could bear witness to the rise and the fall. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. What's your purpose? Why were you put on earth? You could be lost, but you belong to the world. We're now living in a seminal age. The walls are being broken and we're ready for change. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. From the heart of Malaysia to the dark Himalayas. on the day we're born. You are not here to conform. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, and my brain. Not my thoughts or feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the absorber of the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky.
In this song. Again, we'll open up space for our soak. So let that soak in. We'll simmer in and see what bubbles up. I'll set the timer for another few minutes as we consider, where do you perceive the divinity within this song? In a few. Welcome back. Now, I am very curious to hear some of your answers. But before we share, I want you to make sure that you know your answer. If you're doing this on your own, I recommend, writing it down, because you're not going to be in a room full of people. So make sure that you know where you heard the divine in that song and hold on to that, because this is about what you perceive. With that said, who would like to share, in a few sentences, where you perceive the divinity in this song?
For me, it was the rhythm and the sound of it it sounding like a multitude of voices at certain parts. And the sentence or the words right before the eye of the storm, that I realized I could be the eye of the storm, like that potentiality and that kind of call.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and we're getting a comment from Mark. Hi, Mark. To be agents of change beyond the human constructs we encounter in this life. So allowing yourself to break out of the norm, to go through the song. Who else is willing to share, Stephen?
I feel like the second stanza of what I understand to be the chorus, like it's really like this, like it's all like really, to me, speaking about like not over-identifying with the physical body, and then the final line, like I live in the space between the stars and the sky, like that's really like to me the most potent like expression of the divinity. Like,
Something beyond the physical, transcendent of the body, the DNA.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share where the divine spoke to them through the song, Paul?
In my faith tradition, we're taught that like God sees on the heart, and we often try to aspire to be that in my faith tradition. Like we try to look and see people's souls, see people's hearts. So the line, "I am the observer, and the witness of life," I think that's what God is. It's like me trying to have God's eyes to, so it's just tapping into the divine spiritual part of myself, trying to have God's eyes, really.
Wonderful. Yeah. To look at yourself or the world through God's eyes, which we don't always do as humans. Thank you.
For me,
yes,
I
Lena.
get the that whole last stanza or the chorus, from beginning to end. That, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, my brain, my thoughts and feelings, or my DNA. And I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. It's here and then.
Both.
The omnipresent and it's everywhere.
Do you feel that who's the I? Is that God speaking? Is it the singer
that's
speaking?
Not me, that's God. That's not, this.
It's something beyond. Wonderful. So we're seeing some similarities, but some differences between how the divine spoke to each of you through the song, and that's part of the fun. Is what you pick up, what your radar picks up from the divine signal, as it were. And before we soak for our third and final time, I'm going to invite you to consider the message that came to you, how the divinity spoke to you through this song, and imagine how you might represent that in a number. Is there a certain movement or an energy that you would like to embody? If it was a particular line or a chorus, you might think like, when this part comes up in the song, like, how do I express that to my audience? How do I put that into my body? We're not going to go deep into that. I believe that's what the choreography workshop is for next hour. But I do want you to start that fire, start that spark right now, because this is a practice you can apply, of course, to the songs that you may perform in the future. So at this point of the meditation, I might invite you to think about, what does that look like? How do I embody that? Whether it's a tone or a piece of, wisdom that you want to portray, or an emotion, or a sound. Like I appreciate that you started with the sound, the beat, and the voices. How does that? That's okay. That was good with the movement, though. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a moment to think about that. Yeah. How do you embody this? How do you portray this to your audience? And then we are going to do our third and final song soak. The question for this round, this time through, is what is the song calling you, each of you, what is the song calling you to do? Right? Let's imagine that this is a message from the divine or from the higher power, the great being, and it's for you. and it's calling you to do something. What is that? Let's play.
Our ancestors had to fight to survive, just so we could have a chance of a life. We're not here so we can blow it all. We could bear witness to the rise and the fall. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast as I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. What's your purpose? Why were you put on earth? You could be lost, but you belong to the world. We're now living in a seminal age. The walls are being broken and we're ready for change. Ancient dreams in a modern land. I'm trying to get back as fast as I can. Back to a time before I had fun. Back to a time before I was born. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I look in the space between the stars and the sky. From the heart of Malaysia to the dark Himalayas, from the day we were born, you are not here to conform. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself. Recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. I am not my body, not my mind, not my brain. Not my thoughts and feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm the witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky.
All right. Soften your eyes. Get settled for the soak. What is divine in this song calling you to do? Welcome back. I hope that was a nice soak for you. I don't need anyone to share. This might be a very personal thing, but if anybody does want to share, what are you called to do? You're more than welcome to. Todd?
It's very clear. The thing I appreciate about this spiritual practice is that each time I listen, I heard some different things, and every time I listen, I heard the same thing. And that line about trying to get back to before I had form, like who I was then, my essence then. I can hear the divinity speaking to me through this in ways that I think God is, that's my language, has been trying to speak to me, but can't because of the clutter and toxic religion, because I'm on my phone, and I hear very clearly, reduce the distance between who you are when you're in drag, and who you are in the world. Reduce the distance between who you are at Burning Man, and who you are on the default. Reduce the distance between who you are in the church, in the sanctuary, and who you are in the world. I hear it very clearly. Thank you.
It's beautiful. I'm getting chills. Thank you for sharing. Sarah?
Speaking of hearing different things, I heard the laughs this time, the ha. So it's like noticing the laughs and the like sacred pool and like the sacredness of humor.
Wonderful. And what does that call you to do, if you might expand?
I think just bringing that joy and bringing the humor and making things different.
Awesome. Thank you.
I really, the more I listen to it, like I feel like the very first time, the first lyrics of the song like really hit me strongly with this sort of sense of a call to action. But the more that I listen to the song and consider it as a whole, it feels like even just the name speaks to, my impression is that, the ancient world was very focused on spirituality and like the connection to God and spirit and like ways that we can strengthen that, like return to that. And the modern world is very much, mired in materialism and capitalism and empire and all these systems of control that are trying to separate us from God or divinity. And this first verse really feels like, it's really instilling a sense of urgency. It's like all of this happened so that we can be here now, and we need to like hurry to get back to source, like to find our way back to divinity. Which put me in mind of, a spiritual gathering I went to in my late teens, where toward the end of the gathering, someone said like, well, we created a lot of magic here this weekend, and I really invite all of you to take that back with you into your urban environments and into the cities. And like I listened to that, I chewed on it for a minute, and I stood up and like, yeah, I'm not inviting you. I'm telling you, you need to do this. Like that's actually why we're all here. Like it's an imperative. Like we're here to make this magic and to carry it back into our lives, to carry it back into the world. Like we're the shaman, we're the sacred people who are actually supposed to be doing this as a mission. And I kind of feel like that's what is being spoken of in this. It's like really like it's supposed to be empowering, telling us like get up and do this work, like you have it.
Thank you. Please.
And kind of similar to a lot of that, every day I wake up and decide whether I'm a terrible human being or capable of anything. And so I think that the idea that it's not about becoming the eye of the storm, it's like realizing that I'm the eye of the storm, and that the more we all eye of the storm together, then the bigger the eye. And if I'm like, I'm not good enough to be an eye of the storm, then what are we, like, nothing's happening. That I'm just as much, invited to be rising up in my life and expanding in a way that spreads breath and calm and peace with others.
Totally. Thank you.
I think it's a quote attributed to Marianne Williamson, says your playing small does not serve the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very present.
Yeah.
Yeah, own it, claim it.
Yeah, to that same point about the storm, it's like I get the image of like the wizard who like which is one of the queer archetypes where he's like in the middle of a storm and they're just taking their wand and it's all these magical ideas are coming forth and the storm, we can either be a storm for good or bad, right? Like,
Mhm.
so that's
Cool.
I just wanted to say that as I've gotten older, grown into being older, I always knew that I didn't have to be like everybody else. I thought I was enough, But it is interesting how many times she sings, "You are not here to conform." It's like over and over again, and that living in the space between the stars and the sky, it's like the stardust. We all have stardust in us, and so as I grow older and understand how to just accept who I am every day. I don't have to be like you or you, accept. I came in, everybody was all dressed up, and I'm like, "Lord, I didn't know I could dress up," and then it's like, accept. So that's.
Wonderful.
For me, things, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Edward?
Okay. Did I say something?
The word I kept coming back to was divinity. Like specifically saying to yourself, I am divine. Therefore I can act. And like the eye of the storm, like that's the calm part. That's the part where we're there, and if we're acting like we're as important and unique, not conforming, and creating that calmness, and that's where other people can be as well.
Totally widen the space. Thank you. And I think Edward and Layla.
Thank you. It's these words are not my DNA. That really resonated with me. And I think it's what your question was, what does that compel one to do? And I think it compels me to write my own story. And indeed, and the connection is that the idea that DNA is like this written, it's like a code inside you, but you don't have to follow what's been laid out. You can take your own words and your own DNA and make it your own words.
Totally. You're not prescribed from birth to be or do a certain thing. Yeah. Thank you. And Layla.
Being Muslim, and it's always about 111. Sometimes there's that one thing that hits me, but then things come in threes. And then my logical brain always puts it in order. What's your purpose? Why were you put on earth? 2, we're not here so we can blow it all. And 3, you are not here to conform.
Beautiful. Sounds like a calling to me. Thank you so much for sharing. I wasn't sure if anybody would be brave enough, and most of you shared on that question. I appreciate it so much. We got to wrap up, but this has been such a lovely experience. I want to review very quickly the steps for song soak, so you can take this and do it for yourself with literally any song. I do want to say that I picked this one because it was kind of an easy one to dip our toes into. It has a strong message that speaks to queer people. But I do want to remind you that you can do this with literally any piece of music, even if it doesn't have words. It's all about engaging with the piece of art, listening to your intuition, and then giving it two more, goes to be like, what is it actually like? What's deeper? So I'll say that, and the steps are. The first question is, what phrase or moment speaks to you? The second question, where do you perceive the divine in this song? And the third question, what is the divinity calling you to do? So you can take that, and I wanted to say why. Why would we use this as drag performers? What do we think? Would this impact your performances? Right? Would it impact the way you danced, the way you embodied the piece? Would it impact the objective that you had, the message that you gave to the people? Great, that's why. It's to create a more meaningful performance for yourself and for your audience. All right, and with that, I will invite you to take it, make it your own, personalize it, add a candle or incense if you want, whatever you need to do to make this ritual special for you. Thank you so much.